Unconventional Life, welcome back to the summit. I have got Jokke Sommer in the house from Austria joining us on today's segment. Jokke, are you ready to take us down the path less traveled?
The what?
The path less traveled. Are you ready to do it?
Yes.
So Jokke definitely embodies the unconventional life through his love of starting with motocross, skydiving, wingsuit flying, base jumping. He's actually one of the world's best base jumpers, and he's made wingsuit flying kind of a thing on YouTube through his YouTube series Dreamlines and just all the different jumps that you've done. And I know you've got crazy sponsorships with Red Bull and GoPro, and now coming up with this new thing that we were just talking about before. You're all over the map, but your videos are super inspiring. So excited to have you on the show. Welcome to the summit. Fill in any gaps I might have left out and give us a glimpse into your personal life.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty fired up to be a part of it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what is there to say? I love to travel the world, and I explore in either if it's through wingsuit flying, speed riding, snowboarding, or skydiving, or big wave surfing. It doesn't really matter. Like, for me, it's the passion for life. You know, I just love to go out there and explore different elements of life and what this world has to offer.
Yeah.
And because of that, I ended up with this whole wingsuit thing. And the whole wingsuit part was just a little getaway from the office, because I used to have a normal job. And at first I did a degree in graphic design. And once I was finished with that, I actually started working as a kindergarten teacher, because I wanted to get a little bit out of the office for a little bit. And at that time I started jumping, and then, you know, that led me to all this crazy stuff. I didn't really believe that was going to be the outcome of it, because for me it was more just a hobby thing and just something I wanted to try out. But now, 9 years later, I'm lying here talking to you. So it has been a pretty wild ride since then.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was just watching one of your wingsuit flying videos before. And for those listening that might not be familiar with wingsuit flying, can you share a little bit about what that is and what that entails?
So wingsuit flying is something that, I mean, my type or my style of wingsuit flying, that is wingsuit base jumping, which is base jumping in general is something that once you have a parachute on your back, you can either jump from a building, a bridge, an antenna, or earth. And that's why they call it base. So it's the letters for it. So what I do is the wingsuit base. So that pretty much means that we will hike up a mountain, anything from 1 to 7, 12 hours, depending on how big the mountain really is. And once we get to the top, we put on this little costume that is a wingsuit. And this suit is a nylon fabric suit that is perfectly stitched to your body, and it has a vent. So like when you spread your legs, it has a big wing between the legs, and then it has a big wing from the arms down. And once you jump off the mountain, so that's pretty much what we do. We put the wingsuit on, and we stand on the edge of the cliff, and then we say 3, 2, 1, see ya. And then we jump off. And once you jump off, they have these inlets on each wing, and these inlets fills up with air. And once the suit is pressurized, which is after 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, then it starts to fly, and it flies actually really, really good. So now we can do about 4 feet forward per feet we fall.
Wow.
We can pretty much fly like birds for like 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the altitude of the jump. And the suits are really accurate, so you can fly between trees or down in through the forest, between rocks, and it has an accuracy of 1 meter that you can, if you want to hit the target, no problem, you can hit the target.
Nice.
So it's kind of like a jet fighter. It's like a jet fighter plane, but you are the computer and the wings and the engines.
Yeah.
So the engines is actually gravity, because we only use gravity.
Yeah, nice. I love how you're like,
I
yeah,
love that.
you stand at the mountain and you're like 1, 2, 3, see ya, or three,
Yeah.
two, one, see ya, and you go. And so I also like that this started almost as an escape from regular job life, living kind of more of a traditional path. And so to go back a little bit in time, I imagine like being a young person, what was that like kind of growing up in grade school, middle school, developing this mindset where that jump, that free fall or that flying becomes the escape, like just developmentally, like how was it for you growing up? And yeah.
I mean, when I grew up, I was kind of loose, like I always like to push the limits or to test myself, and at some point in life that was a bad thing too, because in the end, if you live in a place where it wasn't as much to do and your friends are just as crazy and they want to experiment with everything from drugs to very mellow crimes, I would say, but stuff like one time we ended up printing some money when we were 13 years old, and the police came and picked us up in the middle of the night, and they told my parents that you got to watch out because they did a really good job printing this money. So like we have done bad things, but it was all just for fun because we were kids and we wanted to push the boundaries that we were not allowed to do. So I lived a life where I was always doing these types of things that you cannot do after a certain age. And then once I became a little older, I decided to, okay, let's focus on school and my motocross. I used to do snowboarding as well for like 14 years, and during that time we were doing competitions and stuff like this, like slopestyle competitions and things. So all of that kept me motivated to kind of skip the bad stuff, because it was all just to get a little kick and something to have fun with. So
Yeah.
the motocross and the snowboarding kind of kept me going, and that put me on a path where I actually decided to focus a little bit on being serious. So once that kind of changed, I found a passion for extreme sports, and I realized that extreme sports is pretty much my fuel to make everything else in life seem that it has a value for me. Like going to work. The only reason why I wanted to go to work was so I had the money to go back home and ride motocross. And that was always the number one thing for me. It was not really about getting a good job in terms of big money, but more about, okay, let's get a job where everything is flexible. And that's also why I ended up quitting the office job just after I got my degree, and go over to kindergarten teaching, because I had this it was in this kindergarten where I used to live, and they only had hired middle-aged women, and mostly middle-aged women that was working there, but they really wanted young guys because the young guys are playing with the kids. So every time, like, I was not really hired as a full-on employee, I was an assistant, but every day there was somebody that was sick, so I was working just as much as a full-time employee. But if I said, okay, now I want to travel for 2 months, then I could just leave whenever I wanted. And when I came back, there was always a job open. So the whole kindergarten thing ended up becoming a very flexible job for me. And that's when I managed to be able to pursue the dream of jumping off cliffs.
Yeah.
Did
There's
I?
a, oh, yeah, go
Huh?
ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no, you go, because
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
really remember what I was going to say anymore.
there's just a few things that I want to like touch on that you're highlighting. And it's kind of like you knew from a young age, it was like extreme sports, like this is the thing that makes life make sense. Like if I
Yeah.
just do this thing, this is what makes it all worthwhile being here as a human being on the planet. And so it's kind of this question of like, all right, obviously money becomes a factor. Like you have to live and like function, and money requires things, but how do you create an environment where you can have money and still have flexibility, which sounds like that kindergarten job became that. And so for someone listening to this, that is like, okay, I'm clear, like I know my thing, like the thing that makes life make sense, but it's this money piece that I can't figure out. And so you become this like torn in the struggle. How did you
Yeah.
navigate that? And what might you say to someone that's in that right
I
now?
mean, in adult life, we can't print money, so that is definitely that is definitely a no-go. So
Darn.
It's a very hard balancing there, because society is all about more all the time, and it's really hard to pull yourself out of that bubble, because in the end, like, just living in for example in New York or LA or London or wherever you want to live, it can be pretty much now anywhere on the planet, more or less, and it's super expensive, like just breathing air almost costs money now. So it's a very hard thing. And I think, like, for me in the beginning, I was very good with being economic, like living in tents or sleeping in a car, or always trying to cut down on every single cost so I could pursue what I wanted to do. And at one point, I was traveling through Europe with my girlfriend at that time, and I had now with today's exchange rate, it would be about $700 a month, and it was enough. Like, I had enough to do all this fun stuff that I want to do. Of course, jumping off cliffs, once you're actually doing it, once you have the skills to do it, it's free. So it's not as as good as a comparison to, for example, somebody that wants to become a rally driver, because then you need a lot of money, or if you want to pursue different dreams that puts you in a place where you have to spend more. And I think I was lucky like that, because the money that I made in between my trips was enough to just feed me and to get me to the places.
Yeah.
And then sleeping in a tent or jumping off a cliff. But I think you always have to find that balance that works for you, and you have to sacrifice, even though it feels scary and it feels like it's not going to work out. So like, I have figured out these two things, that the only way that you can really screw up is either if you become a full-on criminal and you get busted, or if you become a drug addict. If you stay away from those two things, and of course you had the number three, that you have to be super positive and smile to life. Like, a lot of funny things, like I have gotten a lot of jobs and actual sponsor deals by just giving good hugs. Like, I'm the guy that comes into a meeting, never met the guys, and they reach out their hands like, no, bro, like, I'm a hugger. Come on, bring it in. Like, and you smile to life. And if you keep this like positive routine, people will start to like you, and they will start to try and help you out in one way or the other. But there is none of this is a full on what can you say, like a thing that would work. You just have to try different things and adapt to each environment.
Yeah.
And as far as I look in life, I look in life as a video game. It's kind of like you play this little level, and then once you're done with that level, you go to the next one. And that is the same with when you want to pursue or chase your dreams. You have to do it very small steps, each step by step, and adapt to each element where you are and where you're going, but always keep in mind the big goal in the end. But of course, it doesn't work for everybody, and that's why it's one of those where it's better to just try. And if it doesn't work, well, you can always go back to a job. There's always, if you are a happy person and a person that is positive and have something good to offer to an employee, you're always going to get a job. So it's like, you can always find your way out of it, or you can find a combination where you have a job that you really love to do, and you combine it with one of your passions or your dreams.
Yeah, such good advice. So, when you were pioneering wingsuit flying, kind of on YouTube, I know you'd mentioned like there had been a video way back when, but it really wasn't a thing. Like it wasn't popular. And you kind of started just doing it. And I almost imagine like forging this new path or really spotlighting, this industry in a way that hadn't been done before. Was there sacrifice along the way in doing that? And then at what point, like, did you ever question, like, am I crazy for like doing this and just like going after it day after day after day? Or were you like so lit up that you just knew eventually there would be a tipping point? What was your experience being that pioneer?
No, the thing is, like, I didn't really think that it was going to end up like it did. I never thought to myself, like, yeah, this is going to be my job. And actually, it wasn't my dream. My dream was not to become a professional. Like, because for me, I was like, okay, if you want to become a professional athlete, you gotta keep training since you're a little kid and blah blah blah, and do all the right things like that. But for me, I didn't even think that that was possible. So it was not really a dream that was in the back of my head. The only thing that kept me going was that I had so much joy every day. It was like a never-ending vacation. And then I actually started. So after, yeah, because I didn't mention that, but after I worked in the kindergarten teaching for like half a year or something like that, I was in Switzerland for to base jump. And when I was there, I walked past this ski school, and this was on the way to one of the jumps. And one day we were like, hey, should we just stop and just ask if we can work here this season? Because then we could just keep staying here and keep jumping. And we walked in and we're like, yeah, bro, like, yo, bring it in, give us a hug. Like, you never met the guys. And the guys were like wondering, like, who are these locals that are coming in? And I told him, like, yeah, I've done 14 years of snowboarding. I've been skiing since I was 2, and working in the kindergarten. And he was like, oh, that's perfect. We need ski instructors for the 3-year-olds. I was like, yeah, perfect. Let's do it. And the good thing about that job was that I only worked 3 hours per day. And for that, I had enough money for the food each month. And it covered the house in the middle of the Swiss Alps. I had a nice chalet, and I had a season pass. So with this job, I actually managed to gain my skills to a whole nother level, just because that job put me in the environment that I had to be in to be able to train and to do my stuff. So I got to fly every day, and I told the boss that I want to work as little as possible, just enough so I have enough to survive, because I need to fly. And they didn't really mind that. They were like, yeah, whatever, like, you it's up to you. I mean, it's your life. So I was like, yeah, perfect, let's do it like that. So I mean, the kind of hobby and the dream, it puts me in area or situations where you, like I said earlier, you adapt to what you need to do to be able to do what you really want to do. And for me, it never really felt like I was doing something crazy, or that I had to really, and this is kind of like, this is where I almost feel sometimes a little ashamed, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I fought so hard for this dream. And then when I went jumping, I was like, it didn't really feel like I was fighting for a dream. I was just having fun. I was like, okay, like, and because I was so motivated and driven by having fun every single day, I just kept doing that, and it felt natural, and it felt like something that just had to be done. At one point, it didn't really feel natural to, oh, okay, now let's move back to Norway and go back to the office. That was never even crossed my mind. Because I was always thinking, like, oh, in worst case, I'm going to be a ski instructor 4 months out of the year, rest of my life, and live in a tent in the summer up in the mountains, and just fly off the mountain. It's like, you could live, I mean, for example, now, if I wanted to just live super, super cheap and barely spend any money, I would probably go to Indonesia and just surf all summer long and eat fish that I would fish from the ocean, and you know, so there's always solutions to get out of the
Yeah.
bubble.
Yeah.
But you have to want it, and you have to be comfortable by living without what can you say, either a plan or a solid a future that looks bright. But I mean, if I now look at my life today, it's 100 times brighter than it would ever be if I kept staying in the office. Because now I have managed to generate this as a living, and then some years where I've been making good money, I've been able to buy apartments and be able to invest in my future. And if I would have kept staying in the office, I would probably, you know, like, okay, I would keep going and everything will be good, but I could never really reach the next level. You know what I mean? So I would be stuck in kind of a routine where I would feel where I would get stressed, and I feel that now, that every time where I'm, for example, 2 or 3 weeks in one place, I kind of want to be like, okay, let's jump on a flight and go somewhere else and try this place for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that is one of the stuff that was the hardest for me when I actually worked in an office. And you know, I didn't mind it. Like, it was fun, and I loved the actual job. But those down days where they didn't have work coming in and you were just stuck scrolling on the internet and stuff like this, and that's when I lost my motivation, and I just became really honest with myself, and I was like, okay, this is not for me, and I got to do something about it. And for me, it just felt natural to do it, and to pursue something different that is definitely not something that you would think that, yeah, I'm going to go and do that and make more out of that in the future. So
yeah, it's so
I
good.
guess I got rewarded by actually daring to chase something that was not an obvious success in the end. Like, it was not something that I knew that was going to go well. And at the same time, as I'm jumping for all these years, I'm losing 5 friends a year. So I know that, okay, I might die on this jump. But at the same time, this whole concept of living the life on the edge and seeing your friends dying like that, you actually adapt to life and you grab life in a whole different perspective. You know, every day it's like, yeah, you're always stoked and happy, and then boom, it's gone. And once it's gone, yeah, it's done. But every single day, if you live, I kind of say this when people ask me, because sometimes I lose a little track of myself, so I'm like fading out into different elements. But I kind of say this thing where when you're born, you know, you have this empty glass. So when you're, let's say you're 10-year-old, you have filled up maybe a couple of glasses, or maybe you're half full in one glass. You never really know. But I would say now I'm 30 and I have filled up probably a million glass. While, for example, somebody that has been neglecting his own dreams, or been just happy with staying, like, if you're happy, then it's fine. But what I don't like is when people are sticking in their reality where they don't belong, and when they actually hate it. You know, when you reach a point where you have to eat antidepressive drugs to be able to get out of bed and actually go to the office, that's when you got to be true and honest with yourself. You know, but what I always think is, like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like, aren't you afraid of dying young and blah blah. Like, bro, no, bro. Like, I'm already 500 years old. Like, if you wanted to do all the things that I've been doing until I was 30, you have to live so long unless you do it full time. So somebody that maybe lived until he was 80, and let's say he kept working in the same place for 40 years. He had the same friends. He bought his groceries in the same grocery store. and he went vacationing on 3 different places, and usually repeated those because that felt comfortable and it felt safe. Like he has maybe filled up 4 glasses, you know, and it's not like once you're repeating yourself, like let's say you do one thing on Monday, if you do the same thing on Tuesday, you haven't actually lived on Tuesday. You only lived on Monday because that was the new day. But on Tuesday, it was the repeat of the day before. So you then you're standing on still. You're actually not really filling up any more of your life glasses.
Yeah.
So when people say like, oh, but your friend, he died at age 35 and so young, and I'm like, no, bro, like he was not young. He lived an amazing 20 years of just traveling the world, having fun every single day. And if you do that, if you do just something that makes you happy for so long, it doesn't matter if you just last 2 years. Because I mean, once you're dead, you're not going to notice it anyway. But if you have to live through 80 years of miserability, that's not cool. That's like, no, you don't want that, because then you're going to eventually feel bad within yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so many people are not true to themselves.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. This whole summit, you know, as we were talking about earlier, it's about living your life on fire. Exactly like speaking to what you're just talking about, living a life that lights you up so much, you know, that you have these million glasses full. And so for someone that's hearing this and that's feeling stuck or blocked in experiencing that joy every single day, what would you recommend, or what advice might you give to someone to start to access that aliveness and that joy again?
I mean, to access something, you have to just do something that really makes you happy. But of course, it depends on what situation they are in. You know, like I was lucky to grow up in Norway and to be able to have some sort of free choices in the terms of not too much pressure from society back then and all those things. And like, you know, everybody is so different, and everybody has different friends. They have different people that would tell them no, no, no. Like you have all of these things, and at the same time you have your inner voice that tells you either yes or no, or maybe. And once you're starting to hesitate, that's when it's not really going to work. If I'm standing on the edge of a cliff and I'm doubting that this is going to go well, then it's probably going to end well too, you know. And that's usually like, it's one of those things that is really hard to tell people what exactly they have to do, because to some people I can tell one thing and it will go really shit and for some it might work perfectly. So, you know, like I'm always a little bit afraid of telling, yeah, you should do it. But I always feel like, okay, do these basic things of like, okay, ask yourself, what makes you happy? Like ask yourself the question, like, if money wasn't an issue, what would you choose to do? And then based on what that is, you start working towards that. Of course, you have to keep working parts of this to be able to get some income one way or the other. Or if your dream is, for example, like my dream that ended up being in Switzerland to jump off a cliff, find yourself some sort of work where you can be even closer and have more access to the things that you love to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, like, yeah, if you live and work let's say you live in LA, you work in LA, but your dream is to surf waves on Bali, then number one choice, like the number one thing you got to do is turn your back to LA and get the fuck out of there, because that place is gonna take all your money and it's gonna make unless you really want to become an actor or a model or stuff like that, and you have the guts to just keep charging through that without losing faith along the way, yeah, then of course keep doing that. But I mean, the hard part for people is breaking free. You know, the breaking free part is really hard for most people. Like, just, oh yeah, I just quit my apartment and sold everything I had and jumped on a flight. Most people don't dare to do that. But that is actually what you just have to do. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, because depending on where you live, obviously, of course, if you live somewhere where you can pursue your dream, then of course try and focus more on doing what you love to do rather than to buy expensive dinners and party, or buy super expensive iPhones and everything in life that is just plain expensive. Pretty much, because everything is like
Yeah.
whatever you want or need, and that's what I kind of find a little bit shitty about society too, is that it's so hard to break free from it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you are living in the States too, you know, it's like that's maybe the country where is the almost the number one hardest place to break free, because they don't even almost allow you anymore to do it. You know, it's almost a little bit of a prison, but it's cool. Now you got to just do the prison break.
Yeah, nice.
And I mean, if you believe in yourself, and if you have the guts to do it, and if you just think those elements where, okay, don't become a criminal, don't become a drug addict, stay positive, and keep charging. Okay, number 4, keep charging, keep going. It sucks. I know it's scary as fuck, but we gotta go. You know, it's like, yeah, it is scary to jump off a cliff too. But for me, I personally think it's way scarier to not be free, like not be free within myself, like to be told like, okay, you have to do this today, you have to do that. And that scared me way more than a possible outcome of an early death. You know, it's like, or in other terms of people that want to pursue dreams that are more safe, they're maybe terrified about the economic aspect of it, and how is my future going to be if I fail. And then once you start worrying too much about the failing, well, that's when you're failing, because you're worrying about it. So it's all a mental thing, you know. And if you're a positive and cool person, you're going to get friends all over the world. And friends, they love to have even cooler friends. So, you know, they're going to open your arms and they're going to help you out. If you can motivate them, and if you give them some sort of positive inspiration, well, they will open their arms for you and help you out as much as they can. Either if it's by letting you stay on their couch, if you're in the early stage and you just have to pursue the dream, but you can't really spend the money on accommodation, then of course this is one way to do it. But you know, everybody's different, and it's all about what is your comfort level.
Yeah, so good. So let's move into the rapid fire round. This is a series of random questions. Are you ready?
The rapid fire?
The rapid fire round.
Perfect.
All right,
So sick.
question number 1. What is one practice or one routine that you do to help keep you in the game, to set you up for success every day?
To set me up for success. I mean, for me, because of the flying, I would say it's all about flying. Like, I gotta either get out there, jump off a cliff, create some cool content, or I gotta go into the wind tunnel and train, or go skydiving, or go surfing, and try to create some content along the way that I can use on social media. Of course, today with social media, that's pretty much where you can focus your success or not, like whether or not you manage to generate a following. So for me, obviously, it's not so much as, let's say I was a rally car driver, then it's a lot more training than what I have to do. But the actual flying part is where I need to devote my time. And once I'm on the ground, then I have to use that time writing emails, trying to get projects planned, trying to get sponsors on board for different projects that maybe suits other sponsors than the sponsors I already have, and actually use your time to network. Sometimes my life is to go party 3 times a week in Hollywood, just to make more networking. So it's every day is something different. But if I keep flying, keep writing those emails, keep smiling, and spread some positive love somewhere, and it's going to grow into greater proportions.
Yeah, I love
further
that.
down the line.
Okay, next question. I know, you mentioned social media following. Your videos have obviously gotten, millions of views across different platforms, maybe tens, hundreds of millions of views. What do you think for someone that wants to build a following? What's one shortcut or just one, key ingredient, if you could pinpoint it, that you feel has helped you in building your community around you and what you're doing?
I mean, for me, it was really, I have to say that I was just pure damn lucky. Like I hit that YouTube wingsuit thing at the very perfect timing. And of course, I mean, once you're flying wingsuits and doing that stuff, then you have some sort of content that has this wow factor. But let's say you're doing something completely different that doesn't have this, where people get kind of, I mean, the reason why people share my videos is because they're like, holy shit, like these guys are gonna die at the moment, like, oh, like. But for example, if you're doing other things where it's not as extreme or uh, eye catching in the same moment, then for example, like I have friends that are creating videos. They're actually living in LA, and they're actually just cruising around every day, just having fun, but they're filming lifestyle that people dream about. So they actually just film like, oh yeah, now they're driving some nice cars, they're hanging out with some beautiful girls, then they go surf, then there is some party shots, and then out of these images they have managed to create a huge following. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool, because I mean, it's all about trying to sell something that the public wants. So let's say you can be funny and you create funny Instagram videos where people laugh about it, and they will start following you there. But there's always something that you have to give the audience where they want more.
Yeah,
And
nice.
that's pretty much what it's all about. So it doesn't really matter if, like, I mean, if you look on Instagram today, like a lot of it is just a bunch of hot chicks taking selfies. That is obviously only achievable because of the male being completely brain dead. I'm the same, so I'm not blaming anybody. Like, but right now I actually unfollowed about 100 of hot chicks just to be like, I can't handle that shit anymore. Like, I'm starting to lose my mind. But I'm like, not in the way of like, oh, I want every one of them, but more like, holy shit, that's crazy. We're living in a crazy world. So of
Yeah.
course, the only reason why they can do that is because of boys.
Yeah.
And the same goes for like, if you love taking amazing photography, then get out there and take amazing pictures, and you will get following like Chris,
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Next question. What is one limiting belief that you have had to give up about yourself in order to keep going?
What exactly did you mean with that?
Yeah,
What?
yeah, a limiting belief, like it could be like a fear, like I'm not good enough, or a fear of I don't think I'm worth it, or just something like an internal struggle that you had to give up or overcome or evolve, is another way to say it.
Actually, I still have it though, but I'm afraid of heights for some weird reason.
Of
I know
course
it
you are.
doesn't. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense at all with my lifestyle. But I chose to use that thing as something positive instead. So instead of giving up on it, I used it in the terms of, I would say that once you're afraid of heights and you're on the top of a building and you're looking down, you have this like, you get this like, wow, you get nervous, like start shaking a little bit. And then I had this little twisted thing in my head where I was always thinking like, oh, but just imagine if you would just balance on the top of this or doing something crazy like that. So I ended up using the fear of heights as a booster to make base jumping 10 times more awesome. So I would say that I gave up on it, but at the same time, there is still a little stuck because when I, for example, need to help my mom at the house and I have to climb up in the ladder, maybe 10 feet off the ground, I'm like, oh, mom, you got to hold the ladder, hold the ladder. Like, because that's where you get fucked. Like on stuff like that, wow, you get like, that's where life is dangerous.
Yeah, nice. Okay, last question. What does living an unconventional life mean to you?
What?
Living the unconventional life. What does it mean to you?
Oh, it means everything, I would say. I mean, I just love every aspect of having, like, being free to think outside the box and be, for example, right now, like, let's say when I go on a date, you know, like sometimes I actually struggle to find dates because they would find me crazy when I ask the question. But the thing is, like people will be like, yeah, let's go for dinner and drinks. I'm like, fuck that. Like, no, let's not do that, because I don't want to go there and just sit and try and sell myself across the table as a job interview. So I'm like, no, let's do this. I'll buy a ticket out to Europe and let's go skiing, or let's go hiking in the mountains, and let's do some surprises here and there. And then that is a very unconventional way of dating. But the dates, once you're on those dates, they're fully so much fun, and they spice up everything, you know, like, and it's the same way of once you travel or jump off a cliff or drive a car or whatever, like whatever you love, it becomes more fun when it's unconventional and without all this crazy, like, you know, these things that we have in our mind, that we have to do this and we have to do that. And no, we don't have to do shit. We're living on a space ball in the middle of outer space, and we're just stardust, and in theory we don't have to do shit. Like, we're here, like, and there's no worries, you know. And I like to live life like that.
Yeah,
Especially the unconventional way of being free in your mind, you know what I mean? Like, because once you manage to live like that, you become really free in your mind. And I can see it now, like, for example, on my dad, sometimes he's like stressing about all of this stuff, and I'm like, dude, stop stressing about it. Like, that's when it becomes just what can you say, like a distraction rather than an attraction.
yeah, nice. Oh, so good. Thank you so much for that. I know you've got an amazing giveaway for one of our summit listeners. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so let's do this. I mean, as I just said, I love to travel, and I love to do all these fun things. How about a cool Hollywood party? You know, like, I will buy the plane ticket out to LA, and we go for fun. Unconventional.
That's amazing. So if you would like to go meet this man in LA, go ahead, and the details will be below. You can also go to unconventionallifeshow.com, and you guys can go hang out and party. It's awesome. And, how can people follow your stuff, watch some of your videos? How can they stay in touch with you outside of the summit?
They can just Google Jokke Sommer, and then you can choose whether or not you want to be on Facebook, or you want to be on Instagram, or you want to go on YouTube. I mean, it's your choice. So that's I'm actually lucky like that, because I didn't realize the fact that it's really nice to be able to use your name on all different ones. So you can just use one for all.
Amazing. Jokke, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I had a lot of fun on today's segment. And Unconventional Life family, thank you so much for tuning in. We've got more interviews coming at you shortly. Jokke, enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, and thank you guys for having me. It was a pure pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Peace out.